So we are this week in what we refer to as Passion Week. This is the week of the commemoration of the time between Palm Sunday and the resurrection. Now, the Friday before Easter Sunday is traditionally known as Good Friday, the day that marks the remembrance of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Some have posed the question, how do we know that Jesus was crucified on Friday? Well, traditionally, if you hold to a Friday crucifixion, the Bible says in John 19:31 that they needed to remove the bodies from the crosses before sunset because the next day was the Sabbath day. Sabbath day being Saturday, so then we assume that he was crucified on Friday. Jesus was, as we know, he was 3 days in the tomb. And so what these would hold is that any part of a day constitutes a day. So you have Friday night, you've got Saturday, and then you've got Sunday morning, and he rose from the dead on Sunday morning. So he would be rising from the dead on the third day. Now, there are many who have come to this and have asked the question, could he have been crucified not on Friday, but instead on Thursday? There are some compelling arguments for this. Now, assuming that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the donkey on Sunday, Palm Sunday, the Gospels record 3 days of events that happened between Palm Sunday and the crucifixion, which would lead us to a Thursday crucifixion. Wednesday night, if you take that Thursday crucifixion date, Wednesday night, Jesus and the disciples observed the Passover. Now, there was a disagreement among the Jews at that time because some Jews observed the day being from sunset to sunset, others observing the day to be sunrise to sunset. The Passover was a set date on the calendar, but because there was this disagreement as to what constituted a day, there were some observing the Passover well before others were observing the Passover. This is why Jesus and the disciples were observing the Passover before many of them were observing it. John chapter 19 and verse 14 tells us that when Jesus was tried and crucified, it was the day of the preparation of the Passover. And so the ones who didn't observe it the night before, they were preparing that day to observe the Passover that evening, Thursday night. Immediately after the observance of the Passover, the following days were the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Leviticus 23 verse 7 tells us that the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread was a high holy day. It was a day that no one was to do any work. So in addition to the weekly Sabbath day, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread was also another Sabbath day, even if it didn't fall on Saturday. Then we come to John 19 verse 31, and it says, therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the bodies should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day. The Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away. This means he was crucified on Thursday, taken from the cross before sunset on Thursday evening. He would have been in the grave Thursday night, all day on Friday, all day on Saturday, and then rose from the dead on Sunday morning. Now, this does fit in nicely with what Matthew 12 verse 40 says. Jesus said that the Son of Man would be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So there are some compelling arguments for those that hold to a uh, Thursday crucifixion date. And so there are some believers that do hold that. We are posting a Good Friday message on our YouTube channel that I would encourage you to listen to or to watch. I hope you enjoy it. But whether you ascribe to a Thursday crucifixion or a Friday crucifixion date, I hope this is a time when you will sit back, ponder, think on what Jesus did for you on the cross.